Well, it's Miss Butler back again, coming to tell you today about introductory paragraphs. So once you have your thesis statement created and you have had it approved, you are ready to move on to creating the rest of your introductory paragraph. Where does the thesis statement fall in all this, you ask? Well, guess what? It's not the first sentence. We have to do a couple of other things first. So introductory paragraphs are made up of three parts. A hook, something that will engage your reader. Background information that gives your reader a little bit of an understanding of what your topic is, not necessarily your topic, but what you're writing about. And your thesis statement. They always go in that order. Thesis statements generally come at the end of the paragraph. As you get farther and farther more sophisticated in your writing, you can vary this up, but for sure for now, thesis statements come at the end of the paragraph, because you have to give your reader a little bit of information about your topic before you can just dive into it. So if you start your essay or paragraph with something that grabs attention, your reader's going to want to read more. So how can you get an attention grabber that hooks your readers and wants them to keep reading? There's a bunch of different ways to do it, but I'm going to talk about just a couple. So one of the things you can do is surprise your reader. You could start with an unknown or an interesting fact. You could start with something expected, but give it an unexpected twist. Or you could say something that seems to contradict what people already know. Or, in the terms of a literary essay, you can use an engaging quote from the text. Especially if you're talking about a novel or a short story, usually there's a reason why that story has stood the test of time, and it's probably got some really engaging quotes in it. So that's often a good place to start when you're writing that type of essay. So for literary essays like novels or short stories, using a quote from the story that engages the reader in your novel is a very effective hook. Now, you want to be sure that the quote you use for a hook is not something that you really want to use later on for evidence to make your case, but maybe something that just is intriguing about the story. If you were going to write a mystery, maybe it was something that made it seem mysterious. If your book is just an unusual novel, maybe set in a futuristic world, maybe a quote that automatically just kind of dumps your reader into a futuristic world. Maybe it's just something unusual. Maybe it's something startling that just is from the text. So it just instantly engages your reader in learning more about that novel. The next part after the hook is background information. Background information, I don't know why, seems to be really hard for students to grasp the idea of how to do this. But really, it's just a little bit of information about the story to help your reader understand what you're going to be writing about. So remember earlier in the semester when we wrote objective summaries? Background information is like a super short objective summary of the novel or short story. It helps your reader understand what book you are talking about. So for example, if you were doing the story Holes, you could just give a super quick little background information that Stanley Yelnats is accused of a crime that he did not commit, but sadly he is sent off to a labor camp to work and dig nothing but holes. While he is there, he learns some valuable lessons. So it's super short, just a couple of sentences, but gives your reader some idea of what the story is about. What you need to know about writing background information. It should be about 3 sentences max, not really more than that, and not a whole lot less. It'll probably take at least 2 sentences to do what you need to do. You should always give the book title and author. A little note on punctuation. Book titles are italicized, not underlined or in quotations. Quotations are for short stories. Italics are for books. You should explain who the characters you are talking about are. Like in my example I used about Holes, I mentioned who Stanley Yelnats is. And you can imagine that the person who is reading this paper read the book a while ago. They may know some things, but need to be refreshed. I always kind of say, if you're going to be sending this essay off to your Aunt Ida, who lives in Idaho, and you're going to be telling her about a novel, she needs to know what novel you're talking about, and maybe a little bit about it. That's really what background information is all about. Then you put the 3 things together. Your hook, your engaging quote from the story, your background information, the super short summary of the novel, and your thesis statement, the one that you've already gotten approved. And with all of that, your intro paragraph is done.